Okay, this video is showing you how to factor a quadratic by trial and error. You've done this in grade 10. You probably forget some of it. But we're just going to start with quadratics where we only have 1x squared. It's just a little bit easier. I love factoring. I like factoring because you get to play with numbers. You just kind of play around with them, mess around with them until you get it right. Some people find that really frustrating. So if you think that you find it frustrating, you can, feel free, of course, to watch this, but you can also watch the video by decomposition. And you can, if you don't like factoring, you can also learn to solve quadratics by completing the square. But I hope a lot of people do factoring because I think it's the most fun way. So factoring this. You should do this in pencil, because you will make lots of mistakes. I'm not going to do it in pencil because it'll be hard to see on the screen, but I'm just going to cross a lot of things out. I've started already there. Okay, so I'll do this one first. I want to factor x squared plus 8x plus 15. Okay, it's going to factor into two binomials. I'll have an x times an x. And I have to play around with this until I get something that comes out to x squared plus 8x plus 15. So it's easiest to pay attention to the 15 first, because we know where that 15 comes from. It comes from when we multiply this missing term by this missing term. This is going to be a number, like maybe 2 and 4. So we get 2 times 4 is 8. Or it'll just be this term without the x. So the question is, what could we multiply to get 15? And there aren't that many options for 15. It's kind of nice. There's 1 and 15, and there's 3 and 5. I should have put comma there because those aren't negative. 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. So if I try, and in this question everything's positive, so the numbers are going to be positive. If I try 1 and 15, and then I check, I have x squared plus 15x plus 1x plus 16x plus 15. And that's not what I want, because I wanted 8x, so it's not that. You can just erase your 1 and 15, but I'll cross everything out. And then I'll try my next choice. It's 3 and 15, 3 and 5. So I'll check this. I have x squared plus 5x plus 3x. Yeah, that's right, that's 8x plus 15. So this is right. So this is my answer. Okay, and when you're factoring, put all your answers in boxes if they're not on the last line. If you want, you should always do your check. If you're comfortable doing it in your head and you're sure that you're getting it right, that's cool with me. Lots of people are going to want to write it down, but if you write it down on the bottom line, then put your answer in a box so that it's clear that this is the answer, not that. Okay? If you write it, you could write that in the margin or something. If that's on the last line, then it's clear that it's the answer. But if there's something below it, put your answer in a box. Okay, let's do another one. X squared minus 10x minus 24. So we've got x's and x's. Now I have to have things that are going to multiply to give negative 24. I'll write them down over here again. So we have 1 and 24, and one of those numbers would be negative. So I have negative 1 and 24, or I have 1 and negative 24. 24 has a lot of factors. So there's 2 and 12. So they could be negative like that, or it could be negative like this. There's 3 and 8, so it could be negative 3 and 8, or 3 and negative 8. And there's 4 times 6, so it could be negative 4 and 6, or 4 and negative 6. Okay. So as you're looking through these, you can think in advance. It'll save you time. Worst case scenario, if you're not sure, you just sort of brute force, try all these, and see which one comes out to give you the negative 10x. Because they will all give you the negative 24. That's why we chose them. But you can also sort of think ahead to think, what will give me negative 10x? Because the negative 10x comes from x times this number, plus this number times x. So these two missing numbers are going to add to that negative 10x. Let's pretend we're not quite sure about this. We know if we try negative 1 and 24, but if I'm going to have 24x minus 1x, that's going to be nowhere near negative 10. And same with these, nowhere near. But if you're not sure, just try them. Just make sure you write in pencil, and it only takes a second to try them. If I try 2 and negative 12, and negative 2 and 12. So I'll pick one of those. Maybe I'll do negative 2 and plus 12. So if I check that, I get x squared plus 12x minus 2x minus 24. So this, ooh, that's really close. That's plus 10x. So this is wrong, but it's close. So I'll have x, well, I'll just try flipping those signs and see what that gives. So I did that one. I'll try x plus 2, x minus 12. And then check, I've got x squared minus 12x plus 2x. Yeah, that's right. Minus 10x minus 24. So that's perfect. There it is right there. And because my answer's not in the last line, I'll put my answer in a box. Okay. Now I've got one with y's. Y squared minus y minus 20. Remember that's minus 1y. Feel free to write that in if you want. So, I'll have my two factors here in brackets. We're both going to start with y. And I want things that multiply to negative 20. So my options are, there's 1 and 20. It could be negative 1 and 20, or 1 and negative 20. There's 2 and 10, so I'll put negative 2 and 10, or 2 and negative 10. I can do 4 and 5, so negative 4 and 5, or 4 and negative 5. You don't have to write these down. It sort of depends on the way you think. I like to just try stuff, actually. But if you try stuff for more than 30 seconds or a minute and you don't have it yet, I think it's worth writing it down. Because sometimes if people are just sort of trying, they try the same things over and over without realizing it. So if you make an organized list, then you can just go through. Okay, and I want things to come out to negative 1y. So if you think about this, you can think for a second, which combination of these terms is going to give you negative 1y? There's some you can kind of rule out. And if you're not sure, you just try them all. There's only 6 combinations. And if you try negative 1 and 20 and your answer's way off, it's nowhere related to this negative 1, then don't do the other one with the matching signs right away. Like, leave that till later, because it's probably, if this one's way off, that one's probably way off too. So really, you're only going to try like 3, and then if one of them is real close, try the matching one with the opposite signs. So for example, if I try negative 1 and 20, if you see which one it is, then don't bother doing this, just try yours and then double check it. So if I check that, I get y squared plus 20y minus 1y, so that's plus 19y. Yeah, that's no good. So that's wrong. So this is probably wrong. So I'll go to the next one. I'll try y minus 2 and y plus 10. And really what we're doing here is we only have to check the middle term. You know the y squared is right, and you know the last term is right, because that's how we picked these numbers. So we're only really paying attention to the middle term. It's good. I mean, if you're just not comfortable factoring, it's good to check the whole thing just to make sure. But once you get good, you only have to pay attention to the middle term. So here we have plus 10y minus 2y, so that's plus 8y. It's a little bit better, but it's still nowhere near minus 1y. So it's not that one. If we do y minus 4 times y plus 5, we'll have y squared plus 5 minus 4, so that's plus y. That's close. So it's still wrong, but that tells us we should try this one. Y minus 4 times y plus 5. That one was wrong. Try that. And then check, and we get y squared plus 5 minus 4. Did that wrong there. I just copied by accident. I copied the one we just had. Do this. I should slow down a little bit. Y plus 4, y minus 5. That was the one I said I was going to do. So if we check it, we have y squared minus 5 plus 4, so that's minus y minus 20. That's what we wanted. So this is the right answer. Now if you do yours in pencil, it won't be nearly this messy, but there is lots of sort of trying stuff, seeing what works. And as you practice, you get much quicker at figuring out the right combinations. So, here's how you know when you're good enough at this. This is just clearly a book. Questions 2 to 4 here, you're welcome to do some of the harder ones, but you don't have to. Questions 2 to 4. You are good enough at this, that you're good enough to move on. If you can do like a random selection of 5 of these in under 10 minutes, and you get them all right. So that part's really important, you have to get them all right. So if you can do 5 of them in under 10 minutes, so less than 2 minutes each, on average, and you get them all right, then you're good enough to move on. So how do you check if you get them all right? Well, you graph them. You graph the question, the given expression in y1, and you graph your answer in y2. And if they're the same, then you got it right. If they're different, then you got it wrong. Now, you should know, some of these won't factor. So it's actually good to know, to be able to know by trying to factor if it will factor or not. It's good to be confident that it's actually impossible instead of just not knowing if you got it right or not. But here's a list just so you feel better a little bit afterwards. These are the questions that are not possible. So 2C up here, 2H, and so on. So I would suggest you still do a random sampling. And if you think it won't factor, then write down that it won't factor. And then you can check against this list afterwards. Okay, good luck.